I have a group of questions. First, can you post somewhere the exact questions that were asked?
Yes, certainly can.
Thank you. Likewise, do you have a breakdown exactly on the demographics?
Yes, that's.
And do you have a breakdown of demographics by questions answered?
Yes.
So, for example, well, okay, I'll get the example back. Okay. When we go in the beginning where we talk about quality of life rating, and I'm trying to look at future quality of life, without meaning to be overly cynical, is it that those who are saying that it's about the same represent everyone who is already worse or that already poor, and then the feeling about that everything is going to get worse comes from those who are feeling good? So to put these two together, I'd like to know who thinks it's going to get worse and who thinks it's going to remain about the same. Because if the top thinks everything is going to be about the same and the bottom thinks everything's going to get better, that tells me a very different story than if it was the reverse.
Right.
So this is kind of important to really understand that, because people just tend to always put, well, those are the poor think that it's going to get worse, those in the middle think it's going to stay the same, and those at the top think it's going to get better. So I'd like some rational breakdown so we don't do that.
And we do have that. We have
Good.
detailed crosstabs.
Right, I'd like that. Again, what was the exact, the financial situation which my colleague, Ms. Hoffmeister, brought on, I also am very interested in what was the exact question. Also, when it comes to financial questions, what would they want to know? When people say that they're satisfied with the situation, are they satisfied with their knowledge of the situation? And that's kind of important. You know, you may get the attitude, well, I don't care and it doesn't matter, so I'm satisfied, as opposed to, you know, I'm happy with what I know, but I think I really would like to know this. You know, how confident are they with what they know? That's kind of important.
So the exact wording of this question was, I can answer part of your questions. Would you say that the City of Concord's financial situation is excellent, good, fair, poor, very poor?
And I would have followed it up with, are you confident in your knowledge of the scale?
We did not do that. We could
that is
certainly do that in
something,
the future.
Yeah, getting the scale. On the recreation issue of services, I would really like to know what the demographics here, because we see the senior center and the senior services rating very high, and we see youth rating very high. Is youth rating high across the board, or are we seeing our seniors once again locking shields and spear to make sure that we remember that they're there and they vote? Which I'd like just to know a little more of the breakdown of demographics on that specific question.
So again, we have that available, and I can give you that right now.
Well, I don't want to need it right now, just put it in a file. Last, again, well, it's not quite last. There appears, just from the going through it, that there's a bias between, in here about focusing on Todos Santos and downtown. We keep hearing about Todos Santos and downtown. I'd like to hear more questions about people saying, my neighborhood is this, my neighborhood is this, and being able to break down the satisfaction and dissatisfaction by neighborhood or city district, because it's more important when people say that they're satisfied, or actually in many cases they're saying they're unsatisfied with the patrol in their neighborhood. Well, are the people in Crystal Ranch complaining, or are the people in Monument complaining? How is the police chief going to use this data if we don't have it broken down by district? Now, I don't know if you can do that on your phone survey, whether you know, maybe you have to tap into the NSA, but I'm sure they're available for a small fee.
We do know where everybody lives.
Right. So the question is, normally, you know where people live.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
But that's very important to know who's satisfied where, for our police and for us as policymakers to know where we have to go. I mean, we have 122,000 people here. You know, if the average is satisfied, Well, that tells me there's a lot of people that are unsatisfied and those that are dancing in the streets. And if it's a Friday night, I want to know which neighborhood to go to. Okay? So next on the facilities, on terms of importance and satisfaction of selected service facilities, I would like to have seen the energizing of local police substations and maybe local service as an option for them to have said, yeah, we would like to get this going, or at least to like to return it. On gang prevention, which again we see as in poll after poll, both official, unofficial, people are focusing on gang prevention. I would like to know what people have in terms of gang awareness, because the perception and the reality in the city, I think, doesn't match. I think we've got a major fear factor going, because I know our police and all the other services have been working on this. And, I mean, let's face it, we are not West Oakland. So if people are afraid, I would like to see how our emphasis of their desired emphasis is with their awareness, because then maybe, again, we can go to the districts and find out, well, okay, in Dana Estates, there's a higher perception. What do we have to do there? But the police records will show there's somewhere between 0 and a negative number, except for Ron's house, or Mark DeSaulnier's house, or his next door neighbor. So these are the questions I brought up, and I'm sorry they're a little extensive, but the subject matter is kind of close to me. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Birsan.
Yes, I would like to note that it is not unusual to add new questions. If you happen to look at their slide Q7, they added 2 points which were never previously on any report, and I don't remember any discussion with anyone in regard to the council with the formation of the exact questions or the categories. In fact, I believe we were specifically asked not to discuss this matter. My matter is that I protest against that solution, because not only is the importance of the opinions of the entire city, but the diverse opinions of this council are also important to discuss and to get the questions out. And that's why I bring up the issue of the substations. It may not be important to this council, but it may be important to future people who 5 years from now are looking at this slide and wonder, gee, where is this? And if we go back to the first survey after the existence of the substations, you will find that the substations and their satisfactions were consistently listed. And as a final thing for why the Concord disposal is not listed, as I recall going over this, as I say, this is something I kind of like, it became embarrassing after about 15, 20 years that Concord disposal was regularly rated higher than the police department and the fire department or any other city service. The consistent service of this organization to this city has been ingrained into the citizenry, that you're almost at the point where you know Concord disposal is going to be there, and you know that they're going to do a job, and when you have a problem, you pick up the phone and it's done. And there's nothing like, oh, they only do it 90% of the time. So therefore, I don't mind leaving them off because that leaves us more time to ask about questions about things like substations or potholes in your neighborhood. Thank you.